Today is Let's Talk Business, and I am Bryan, the President and Chief Investment Officer at Bryan Financial Group, a registered investment advisory firm and the home of AfroEconomics, a strategic financial management program designed for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad. Indeed, it is time for some AfroEconomics. I was listening this morning. Look, but I was even more amazing as I was exercising and listening at the same time to this song. And Jay-Z, one of the lyrics that he said, he kind of cussed, but he said, F living like I'm rich and dying broke, whatever. I know the exact whatever. That's not the exact, but basically he was saying too many of us, and superstars, because you could say easy for him to say because he's, so rich, but it's not easy for him to say. He's an entrepreneur like most of us. And it is too often, sadly, that our mega stars in our Black community are dying broke. The first principle of AfroEconomics is a workbook. The first principle is legacy, right? Why are you doing this? And I put legacy as the first principle because I think, especially as entrepreneurs, but as anybody, we need to know why we're doing this because things get challenging in life. And I think that so many people lose their way and lose sight of what is really important and what God's purpose is over their life because they really haven't thought about what they're doing it for. Why are they here? They don't really know. So when you think about your legacy and you think about what footprint you want to leave on this planet, then it's a lot easier to stay focused. It's a lot easier to log into an absolutely free webinar and talk about some strategies for your business. It's a lot easier when you know where you want to go. So that first principle of AfroEconomics is legacy. So let's talk about the risk that all entrepreneurs that I know have faced to some degree. All of these things that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to start with one. I don't know if I should start with 10. I'm going to start with 10 and I'm going to work my way backwards. That's what I'm going to do. The 10th risk is the risk of being misunderstood. And I know that's true. I know that's true because I have faced it, most of my life, but especially after I started my firm in 1995, even when I went in to tell the investment firm that I was working for that I was leaving and I was starting my own firm, they said, I don't understand. What are you talking about? She's kidding. So, being independent now is common. You see a lot of, advisors that say, oh, they're independent, but they still have this, big brother relationship in there somewhere down on their card and will, have who they're working with. And, but back then, that was rare. And let me tell you, Bryan Financial Group is an absolutely 100% Black owned, totally independent registered investment advisory firm. So being misunderstood is commonplace. And it is, being misunderstood, it's a package deal with entrepreneurship, especially as a Black entrepreneur. And if you got multiple degrees like I do, they say to you, like, what in the world would you want to put yourself through that for? Well, I truly believe that what Carter G. Woodson said, that we all have a responsibility to go out there and get that education and come on and bring it back to the community that makes it all possible. You make it possible. I feel that by serving you, I'm doing and living out my purpose. So most of us will never be understood about why we do what we do. And most importantly, most people will never understand how you do it. So that is the 10th risk. When you decide to be an entrepreneur, understand that you are taking the risk and will have to face the risk of being misunderstood. Number 9, like I prepared this to go 1 through 10. But look, I just decided that I'm just going to do it this way. Look, that's what entrepreneurs can do. We're going backwards. And then my 10th risk that I've discovered that most, if not all, Black entrepreneurs, business owners face is, now this is true. Now this is common for all of us. Now everybody just doesn't do this well. Figure out what comes next. See, when you own your own business, it's not like when you're retiring from a business or retiring from a government entity or retiring from a job. Then you just say, I'm retiring, I'm leaving. Where the documentation, the paperwork, you fill it out. They tell you, some cases, very rare, but in some cases they'll tell you what your pension will be at what age and things like that, what you need to do to qualify, blah, 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 blah. Well, voila, as a business owner, no. What comes next is a huge question mark, and you have to fill it. You have to do your change your planning for succession, who you want to pass the business on. And it doesn't start at the end. You start your succession while you're working. Who do you want to pass it on to? Someone outside of your family, in your family, another practice or another business that does what you do, how you want to pass it on. Think about these things. Develop a plan because that is a major risk for Black businesses. The business kind of just dissolving and nobody actually made any money on the fruits of the labor of the generations before them that allowed you to have a business in the first place. There's not a problem with selling the business. The problem is when you don't have a plan and you don't get the value out of it that your family rightfully deserves. So you have to make a plan for your business because there'll be no big retirement party, no gold ring, and the future of your business has to be planned. An 8th risk that you face is that relationships are impacted. And your relationships you will have to sacrifice some relationships. Relationships will have a huge impact because of your decision to be an entrepreneur. Your children are impacted by your decision to be an entrepreneur. I have here, you are working all the time. Even when you are not at the office, you are working. Now, that's not true for me. I'm just joking. Yeah, that is absolutely true for me. I work all the time. Yeah, I'm totally married to my work. Yes. And most successful entrepreneurs are married to their dream. But it is true as true. I said it, it's out there that you have to sacrifice in relationships because of entrepreneurship. And you have to have a true partnership in that, realizing that you start your business and you're married, that business is also owned by your spouse. Your spouse is part owner of that business, even if they're not running it every day. And a lot of people don't get that. So when the marriage falls apart, they don't understand why the spouse gets part of the business. But the spouse has been dealing with the pain of the business also. Yes, indeed. So if you have a spouse and you own a business and they've stuck there with you through this and they've helped you build that, I mean, hey, you know it. You know it wouldn't be possible without them. You know you can look at your kids every day and you have to realize that you're, because of what you're doing and you're not being able to do what you got to do with your kids. You know, I tell you one thing, if I had a spouse that had been with me since 1995, I would be like, yeah, buddy, high five, because I know he would know what I've been through. Not the case for me. I'm on the opposite end of the entrepreneurship where I've had to do, these things and I've had to sacrifice it and, alone. It is what it is. So my seventh risk that we face as entrepreneurs is, what is me time? Look, you are going to have to sacrifice personal time. I have here, the rewards of entrepreneurship often outweigh these personal risks, but you have to be prepared to live the type of lifestyle that will not offer you a lot of what people say, me time. Me time. When you're an entrepreneur, when you're working and living your dream every day, that is your me time. I mean, I don't feel like neglected because I don't get a chance to just like sit by the pool all summer long, because my me time is when I'm just really getting in a role, and I'm putting together stuff for a workshop, or that's the entrepreneur mindset. So the me time, that's where the misunderstood, that 10th risk, that the general population might not get, that your me time is different. You got different type of time. So and also we have to be careful with risking your health. Many entrepreneurs risk your health. And I was saying, we're under an underlying constant stress that these are going to come up. Some of our stresses, don't let me talk, but you're underlying, you have that stress that's just kind of there. Like, I got to make this come in on time. I got to make this on time. I got to get the money for this. I got to make this work. I got to do this. I got to present that. You have this constant hit of being 100% responsible for making that happen. So that can affect your health if you respond to these stresses in a negative way. So you have to be committed to having good personal habits. I had to personally decide that I wasn't going to drink and I wasn't going to smoke because I know I'm under a lot of stress. So I had to figure another way. I had to figure out how I have to keep sweets away from me, because I love to have sweets all the time. So I have to stay away from the sweets, because having too much weight is another health risk, and common among entrepreneurs, and among a lot of people who are under a lot of stress. But, entrepreneurs, we have to be conscious of that. I go out of my way to try to make sure I get some exercise in at the beginning of every day, especially over these last couple of years, with the book release and different offices opening up and all these different things that are going on, in my life. It's allowed me to not have the type of time where I used to have, where I would spend hours out of my day in the gym. So what is the exchange that we do with that? Like, I really should not even eat at all. Look, everything would be fine if I would eat like about 200 calories a day. But anyway, just to say that we have that a risk to us as entrepreneurs is our personal risk of our health, and knowing that our me time is different than the average person's me time. What about risk? No, we're going backwards. I'm on number 6, headed to 1. So 6, betting on deadlines and contracts. No, getting comfortable with that. A startup, startups are forced. And I don't even just say startups, like all of us are forced to deal with different strict timelines all the time. When I was releasing the book, and then I was like, oh, well, I want this book out. I want it out by Black History Month, and that wasn't of 2016. So it was like all of a sudden I was under this pressure, and I was like, la, 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 la. All of a sudden, but it was like, no, I want it out by then. But I believe if I hadn't said that it's got to be out by then, I'd still be working on it. So you're constantly under these deadlines, or you're trying to get a particular contract that's come up for bid, and you've got to have that bid and all of the writing, all the information, and all the research done by this particular time. Becoming comfortable with, you're going to be dealing with contracts and deadlines all the time. Even the fact that it's the stress of knowing that contracts are going to end, and they're going to end sometimes without you even knowing. So and a lot of the times, without you even knowing that there was something going on or something was falling apart that was totally outside of your control, you're gonna have to respond and keep your business afloat in response to stuff that you really had no control over. And the fifth point is trust. Learning to trust, especially when you're talking about trusting people who are taking over responsibility of helping you serve your customers. Even if it's as simple like mine is pretty, rigid, because I have to be very careful who I allow into my business, because my clients haven't trusted me with a lot, and I am 100% responsible for my clients. So I have to be very comfortable and very careful in who I entrust their information to and with, and if at all, or how to trust these people, how to trust employees. And that is so real, and it is extremely stressful. I know that I had situation before where I just came by, my key assistant just left work at lunchtime one day, wrote me a long 3 or 4 page letter about how much she loved me, how great I was, but she really had to go because she wanted to go work with a law firm, and that was what was in her field. And I was like, what you gonna do now, right? There's nobody else. You can't just shift somebody from doing, customer service, and all of a sudden they're your assistant and doing your appointments and everything. No, they had specific things that they needed to do. And you've trusted this person. You've trusted that. But as an entrepreneur, we have to learn to trust someone. You do. And getting that person that you trust is our blessing. I thank God every day for my executive assistant. I do. So also about estimating popular interest. Now, no matter how much you research or how many tests that you take, or how to determine what is going to come next, like how to keep your business going, how to know what people are going to be interested in next, like how to have this foresight about where business in general is going, I should say. Like, what are people going to do, and how much of your resources should you put in to something that's coming next? Like, I'm putting a lot of resources in automation and allowing you to go to the website, click and open up your brokerage account right there, without having the direct interface with me. It's taking quite an investment. And that should be up like Monday. But that is estimating that people are going to respond to being able to click here and open up your brokerage account. And how long will it take for you to get them to respond, to get that money that you've already put into setting up that system for making it available? Whatever it is in your specific business, is that we have to always take that chance of trying to figure out and put in the research of what people want and expect from us next. And a third point. My third point is there's the risk of knowing or feeling like you have enough cash flow. So the third risk we say was just cash flow. The cash flow may not flow. And that is so real. So even if you have this loan that you feel like, well, if things don't flow the way I said, then I have this loan that will take care of payroll for a certain amount of weeks or months or things like that, that if that can run out as well. And realizing that there is a risk there as a business owner, that there's no guarantee on how your cash is going to flow. That's a real risk. Number 2, is that because of those cash flow, because of that, you have to realize that you are going to be faced with sacrificing your personal assets and savings. Yep. If you can't do it, you better not get in the game. Because if you can't go in 100, if you can't do everything you got to do to make this business work, if you're not willing to do it, you better not do it. Because you end up with nothing. It's kind of like a person that goes to college and they take out school loans and they don't graduate. They would have been better off like not going. They are incomplete and now you still got to pay that loan back. People do that with business. They'll go out and they go start a business. Then they go, oh, it didn't work. Well, you know what? That little loan you went out there and got is still due. They don't care how you pay it back. You got to pay it back. You got to pay it back. So there is a risk in understanding that you're going to have to sacrifice your personal assets and savings to some degree. For some people, you may not have to sacrifice any at all. You know, that you're not going to, but then how can you ask others to invest in you if you're not willing to invest in yourself? And then my final point, where did the paycheck go? Well, as an entrepreneur, if you're working somewhere else, you got to realize the risk. The first one, the number one, is going to happen to you. There will be no more steady paycheck if you are trying to totally focus on building a major company. You can't. And I see people do it all the time, though. They'll be like, well, when I get off work, I'll call you, or I'll send you that estimate when I finish working. I don't want to hear that. Who wants to hear that? I don't want to hear that you work somewhere else because I'm 100% in. I'm in mine. There's somebody else who's 100% in. They're taking all that risk. So I'm going to show them preference already because they're going to get it to me sooner. Or you better just do what you got to do. But then you're robbing the place where you work. Because when you're robbing them, and that's not a good look either. Because then that's a business too. So realize that if you're really trying to build a business, a real business that's going to feed you and your family, that you're going to have something to leave as a legacy, there's going to be an end to that steady paycheck. Yes, it is. It is until your business can provide that. And hey, guess what? When you're the boss, you got to pay the cost, and everybody gets paid before you do. Those are some, not all, of the risks that we face as an entrepreneur. I am JB Bryan, the President and Chief Investment Officer of JB Bryan Financial Group, a registered investment advisory firm in Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and New York. Don't hesitate to inbox me, participate. Thank you to all the webinar people for participating. You are the bomb diggity. And it allows me to see your response, your questions, your chats, and it allows you to get on my database so that I can invite you to all the things that we have. Consider membership. There's an entrepreneurship membership. When you go to the website, you'll see all these different membership ones, and you have events, and podcasts, all these different things at AfroEconomics.com, even the bookstore as a gift idea. Thank you all for the books that you have purchased for your family and friends for the holidays. Empowerment is the best gift that you can give someone. Now, you say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I pray that they drink. I thank you for allowing me to be on your team. You all have a wonderful day. We have a question. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, JB. Take care of yourself. That's Miss Gwen. Yes, indeed. You take care of yourself. I love you. God bless you. Y'all take care. Happy holidays, everybody. And I'll be back next Sunday. And then also on Wednesday, don't forget the webinar Wednesdays. We'll be back. God bless y'all. Bye-bye.